You're at your friend's wedding. Open bar, fancy venue. She looks beautiful. Everyone's happy. You're sitting there doing math in your head. This one day cost more than a down payment on a house, more than a year of maxing out retirement accounts. And in less than a decade, statistically, they'll be signing divorce papers. The average wedding costs $30,000. The average marriage lasts 8 years. That's $3,750 per year to eventually split your assets in half, or even more. Here's the math nobody wants you to do. But before we go any further, drop your age and relationship status in the comments. Single? Married? Divorced? Let's see who's watching this and whether the married guys will actually admit this is right. Welcome to Blue Chip Mindset, the winning mindset for success. If you've ever wondered why you're broke after getting married, hit that like button. Before the wedding, there's the ring. The average engagement ring costs $5,000. That's 3 months of salary according to some diamond company that made that rule up. You're at the jewelry store looking at rocks that do nothing, cost everything, and represent how much you love her, apparently. That $5,000 invested at 10% for 30 years becomes $87,000. You're buying $87,000 worth of future retirement to put on her finger. And if she says no because the diamond isn't big enough, you just learned everything you need to know about her priorities. $30,000 is the average wedding cost in America. That's a down payment on a house. That's a year of maxing out your retirement accounts. That's a used car paid in cash. And people are spending it on one day that nobody will remember in 5 years except for the debt they're still paying off. That $30,000 isn't just $30,000. If someone invested that money instead and got a 10% average annual return, in 20 years that becomes over $200,000. In 30 years, it becomes over $500,000. $500,000 in future wealth spent on a party where half the guests didn't even want to be there. Everyone knows this is insane. But people do it anyway because she wants a wedding and nobody wants to be the guy who says no. So they take out loans, drain savings, and convince themselves that this one day is worth setting their financial future back by a decade. When you're single, you can live cheap. You can drive a 10-year-old car, you can live in a small apartment, and nobody judges you for it. You can play PlayStation all weekend in your underwear and nobody says a thing. You're building wealth and that's all that matters. When you get married, all of that changes. You're sitting on the couch in your apartment, the one you've had for 3 years, the one that's been fine. She says we need to start looking at houses, not apartments, houses. You run the numbers in your head. That's a $2,000 mortgage instead of $1,200 in rent. That's $800 a month you're not investing anymore. That's $288,000 over 30 years in compound growth you just lost. But you can't say that, so you smile and say, yeah, let's start looking. The car you've been driving? Embarrassing now. The weekend trips you never took when you were single? Now they're expected. The restaurants you avoided because they were too expensive? Now you're there twice a month. And kids? Forget about it. The moment kids enter the picture, expenses explode. Daycare costs more than some people's rent. Bigger house, bigger car, more insurance. And you can't say no because you're a provider now. Financial goals take a back seat to family expenses, and before you know it, you're making more money than you ever did. But somehow you're more broke than when you were single. 50% of marriages end in divorce. That means if you get married, you're essentially flipping a coin on whether you get to keep what you built or lose it to someone who will replace you in a matter of months, or even worse, days. You're 42 years old. You're sitting in a lawyer's office signing papers. The house you paid for? She gets it. The retirement account you built? Split down the middle. The car? Hers. The kids? Every other weekend if you're lucky. You're moving into a one-bedroom apartment with furniture from IKEA, starting over from zero at an age when your net worth was supposed to be peaking. Your single friend from college just retired early. You're working another 25 years minimum. That's divorce. And it's worse if you're the higher earner. You're not just losing assets. You're paying alimony. You're paying child support. You're covering her legal fees on top of your own. You could walk away with 30% of what you built, and that's if you're lucky. Men lose more in divorce than women do. Women initiate 70% of divorces, 80% if they're college educated, and men pay the majority of the financial consequences. The system is designed to transfer wealth from you to her, and marriage is the contract that makes it all legal. You've got a friend who never got married. You used to feel bad for him. While you were buying the house and having the kids, he was still in his small apartment driving his old car. You thought he was missing out on life. 10 years later, he retires at 45. He's got $1 million invested. He travels 6 months out of the year. He does whatever he wants. You're still working. You'll be working another 20 years at least. Your kids need college money. Your wife wants to remodel the kitchen again. You make more money than he ever did, but somehow he's richer than you'll ever be. He didn't get lucky. He didn't inherit money. He just stayed single and invested the difference. While you were paying for weddings and bigger houses and family vacations, he was buying index funds. Now he's free and you're trapped. Marriage can make financial sense, but it rarely does, and most people do it for the wrong reasons at the wrong time with the wrong person. Marriage makes sense when you're both on the same page financially. If she's as focused on building wealth as you are, if she's contributing equally, if she's not pushing for lifestyle inflation every year, then marriage can actually accelerate wealth building. 2 incomes, 1 household, shared expenses. The math works if both people are disciplined. Marriage makes sense when you're older and established. If you're 35 with a solid net worth and a clear financial plan, you can afford the risk. If you're 25 and broke, you're gambling with money you don't have. Marriage makes sense if you get a prenup. A real prenup that protects what you built before the marriage and clearly defines what happens if it ends. Most people don't do this because it's uncomfortable, but a prenup is just a financial contract. If she refuses to sign one, that tells you everything you need to know. And marriage makes sense if you don't want kids. Kids are the real expense multiplier. If you're both committed to staying child-free, your financial risk drops dramatically. But most people get married young, to someone who isn't financially aligned, without a prenup, and planning to have kids. That's a financial disaster waiting to happen. If you're under 30 and your net worth is under $50,000, you're too young and too broke to get married. Focus on building wealth first. If she's pushing for marriage before you're financially stable, that's a red flag. Someone who loves you will wait. Someone who wants a wedding more than a future will pressure you into debt. If you're making significantly more than she is and she won't sign a prenup, walk away. Protect what you've built. Nobody's saying don't get married ever. But if you're 25 making $50,000 a year and she's already picking out wedding venues, you're about to make a $300,000 mistake. That's throwing your financial future away with a white dress and a DJ. The men who build wealth get married on their terms, when they're ready, with someone who's financially aligned and with a prenup that protects what they've built. Everyone else gets married because they're supposed to, because she's pushing for it, because their friends are doing it. And then they spend the next decade wondering why they're broke, while their single friends are retiring early. Marriage can be great from an emotional standpoint, but from a purely financial perspective, it's one of the riskiest decisions you'll ever make. And most people make that decision based on emotion, social pressure, and what they see on social media instead of looking at what it actually costs over a lifetime. So here's the question. If you're single, are you getting married or staying focused on building wealth? If you're married knowing what you know now, would you do it again? And if you're divorced, what's the one thing you wish you'd known before signing those papers? Drop your honest answer in the comments. Let's see how many married guys will actually admit they wish they'd waited and how many divorced guys validate everything said in this video.